please let's jump straight into the supervision and auditing of valuation processes by executing agencies. So I think this is where you will be talking about the terms of reference and the other materials that you refer to. So please do go on ahead.
Thank you so much. And again, to reinstate that we will answer all your questions, and we are really taking it seriously. So now we will, in our last session, we will go through what is review evaluation and how you should do that. Then that would be delivered by Ben. Then I will share one case study of the review evaluation that we did following a group complaint in one of the countries. And then what are the main elements to consider to develop the TOR? And we will share with you a short 2-page guidance on the development of the TOR for the valuation in the handout materials. Now, if I may ask you to answer in the chat, what challenges or difficulties you have encountered engaging a valuation specialist or supervising valuation process? What challenges you faced engaging valuation specialists? There is one answer. They stick with national methodology only. Very good observation. PUBS doesn't coordinate change in market conditions. They are local and provide more favorable valuations to their friend. Their small pool of valuers, government valuers, are also private valuers, and trust is an issue for affected people. Very good observation there. Not enough qualified specialists. No accreditation for valuators, qualification, legal laws of a specific country that doesn't help in supervising the processes. Very good observation. Very difficult to choose a specialist that will be trusted. Please continue adding your answers. I will just summarize a couple of with some reflection. But please do add more, and we will improve the challenges that we have, and we will reshare it with you. So of course, there is an issue of capacity, and it's important to involve local capacity because they understand better what the markets are, how markets are functioning, what are the approaches of affected people when how they use agricultural lands, assets, or how they use agricultural products, etc. But also their capacity may not be sufficient and enough to ensure that methodology is robust and transparent, and the situation is very different in the different countries. In some countries, local evaluators, as pointed out, may not be trusted. So project would need to think about the strategy, how to ensure and enhance and build trust with affected people on the valuation. As mentioned, usually valuation specialists do not understand MFI policies and special requirements. For example, no depreciation, which is very specific for the policies, all policies, but which is usually not the case even in the international valuation standards. Understanding of safeguards and livelihood restoration principles. Clarity in terminology. We already had this several occasions when me and Ben were talking about either same issue using different terms or different issues using the same term. Translation issues when we are involving the international valuation consultants. In supervision of the valuation processes, usually implementing agencies and also consultants have limited capacity in terms of understanding of technical details of valuation to ensure the supervision of the process. There was also one statement about potential accountability in different national systems. If implementing agency would proactively supervise the valuation process, there could be an issue of potential accountability for the results. And in some countries, it's not possible to do. Because there may be issues when they would go to the court and the valuator is the one who should be responsible for the valuation results. So it depends on the context of the country. The solution that we have for now is a proper TOR. Proper TOR that helps to meet valuation specialists and safeguard specialists to meet and understand the needs and the requirements. The other potential solution could be use of international valuation standards, which defines the transparent approaches on how you could document your thought process and what are the main methods to approach the valuation. And this could legitimize the valuation and help in building trust with affected people, but also for the EA to be more confident in the outcomes of the valuation process. And next Monday, we will have a Director of Tangible Assets from International Valuation Standards Council, who will share with you what these standards are about and structure of the standards. With that, over to you, Ben, to share more on valuation review. And please ask me to list through the slides. Over to you, Ben.
Sure. Thank you very much, Zara. Again, valuation review, valuation audit get used in exchangeable terms, but they're not quite the same thing. And again, I think it's really important engaging with the valuer, and this element of trust and using appropriate methodologies can be tackled at a very early stage by the valuer understanding that there will be some audit or review process which is carried out alongside the valuations they provide. Valuation audit is a very specific term which is again used in accounting. Usually that means that and I guess and I know that all the projects, not the individual valuations, but the projects will have a budget which will be audited at some stage through your accounting departments, etc., for signing off final budgets and payments, etc. And that's usually where the audit is: has this been carried out correctly? Can I understand the story? Yes or no? And that usually that's it. And if the auditor cannot understand how the numbers have been generated, they will refuse to sign off the audit. A valuation review is where the valuation is reviewed by another person, by another valuer. It is not actually a valuation. It's a process of looking at whether the story is clear, whether they can understand the steps which have been made. Are the methods which have been used reasonable? Are the assumptions that have been made reasonable? Because again, valuation usually includes some assumptions, some elements of consistency whereby those facts may not be actually on the ground and evident, but they're for the process of looking at the completing the valuation to get the consistency. So it's really important that this process of the valuer who you are instructing, understanding that their work will be reviewed at some point by another party. And that certainly drives or tends to drive up the quality of the work which is being undertaken by the valuer in the first place. So just a few words on that, Zara. I think probably in the to save some time and get back on schedule, we'll leave it at that for the time being and see whether any other questions come in. Yeah, so we're looking at the review, the approach, the methods which are being used. What have they used? The comparable method or the market method or the cost approach? What is it? Which process have they used to carry out the valuation? And was that the correct decision to use that methodology? Again, what assumptions they've made in the analysis? What actual processes, for example, an assumption that the people have a right to occupy that building, that you wouldn't actually go and look at the legal documents, but there's an assumption that that would be the case. Are those reasonable? Verification of the data, working through, particularly it's been noted that in some countries, the actual information in the market is restricted. But making sure that the data has been verified that you use to put into your method of valuation. And doing a compliance check whether the actual valuation has been carried out in an appropriate way. And I've put recalculation with a question mark at the bottom there because it may or may not include a recalculation. Probably not, but certainly an indication of whether the outcomes are reliable or not. But the recalculation, as Zara's already said, that creates a secondary set of numbers, and very often valuations will differ, and so you get up with two numbers, which then confuses all the parties. Very often those different numbers are generated because the two valuers are working off different assumptions and different terms of reference. It's really important that the valuer receives exactly the same instructions so that the outcome can be compared, because if they're not, then there will be different viewpoints which have come into the assessment of the valuation. So looking at the sample-based evaluation, looking at some of the processes, again, it's a question which comes up quite regularly. You've got lots of little assets which need valuing. Is it okay to value a sample and then apply those numbers to other properties which haven't been inspected? Well, those are not valuations. The sample valuations are very useful and may be carried out at the start of a project, but the actual, again, it depends on the legal requirements of the country. Do they require an actual valuation to be carried out on each individual item, or are they providing a sample to begin with? And the valuer needs to understand that process, making sure that if you're using that process, you're using a like-to-like comparison. So if you're using the sale of one property to compare with another, then you need to make sure that actually not just the physical components of that comparable are the same, but the actual legal, the structure, the occupation, there aren't any different rights of way over the asset. Are they all similar, or are there other things which are driving a different comparable evidence? And then looking at secondary data in audit. What about the other numbers which start to generate in the marketplace? What about data like inflation, interest rate changes, GDP, all the macroeconomic data which valuers should also be considering as they start to produce their valuations, and those should be all part of that audit process. So again, Zara, I'll try and pass back to you now for the case study, and hopefully the questions will start to follow from there.
Thank you so much, Ben. Very quickly, I would like to share with you a case study. We will send you a detailed version with detailed outcomes and description. So when you have complaints related to valuation, there could be different strategies adopted when you are trying to resolve them. Group complaints could indicate a risk of a potential systematic issues and may need thorough review of the valuation. Now, Ben shared 5 elements and components to review to guide the process. And on every specific case, you need to think, are you questioning asset inventory? Then in the TOR, it should be, there should be field visits, inventory, and reevaluation. Or are you questioning the approach and methodology? Then you can have just blind reevaluation based on the description of the assets shared in the report, which could be shared with the second valuator. Or you question the relevance of the proposed market value over the long period of time. Then you can look at the baseline data, its relevance to today's market, and not question the methodology at all. Now, I would like to share with you just one case study of a complaint that was received by grievance mechanism of project and then by local office in AIIB in 2010, where a group of people were dissatisfied with the results of valuation of their agricultural lands. Now, they claimed that the proposed compensation was very low, and a new evaluator assessed a sample of the affected agricultural lands, and you can see that the reassessed new proposed price was twice higher than the one reflected in during preparation of the draft resettlement plan. And this would be applicable to more than half of the affected land plots. However, to move with the results of any valuation review, and you need to think about it upfront, you need to understand what are the next steps. You need to make a decision based on the deeper understanding of the reasons why the reasons behind this difference. So in this particular case, it turned out that the evaluators both used comparative methodology in both cases, but they applied comparative methodology using one source of data for the first evaluator, and the second evaluator looked not only on the sold transactions, but also collected information on the properties that are listed for sale on the websites, in the announcements. So the second evaluator did triangulation of the baseline data. Both sources, sold transactions and for sale transactions and use of those have their pros and cons. Sometimes people are registered lower rates because of to avoid taxes or stamp duties, or they do not want their relatives or friends to know about the financial transactions, or their cases could be, special cases of sale could be higher than market prices. So when we approach the baseline data selection, we need to understand what data, baseline data is used and how reliable it is. Now, in short term, the learning from the case was applied to the projects, and the plan was revised and compensation amounts have been updated and paid to satisfaction of affected people. This also changed the practice in the projects in the country with better cooperation with evaluators and change of the resettlement plan. But what are the main learnings out of the case that you also can apply in your reviews of the evaluations? First, please remember, under international valuation standards, the valuer is responsible for the data they are using. And for implementing agency, it is important to ensure that the TOR for valuation includes the requirement to clearly share data selection, methodology of data selection, sources of the data to be used, its reliability, and this all is reflected in the valuation report. Implementing agency could, through several simple questions, look closer at the valuation and baseline data, answering several simple questions. We have more details in the case study that we will share, like do data points come from actual or intended for sale transactions? Is there evidence or several transactions or single transactions in the market? Are the transactions close to the valuation date, and etc.? Implementing agencies can start early dialogue with the evaluators to define the methodology. And projects should provide the definite TOR for the projects. Now, I will not take time just to share with you the guidance we will share as a handout, where you can see on the first page 4 blocks and main questions you have to consider when you are just developing the TOR, to understand what is the purpose of the valuation, what is the capacity in the country, what is national framework, and the last one and also on the comparison of national and AIIB, and what you expect, what will be the role of the evaluator, including participation in consultations, etc. On the second page, you will find list of blocks with specific advices on how to frame and what to look at in the terms of reference for valuation. And just for time check with Ines, I think we are over time already.
Yes, so we are now due to start the next session. So if you could wrap it up, and then I'll just take one question and then we will move on to the next session.
Okay. So you will be able to look at the terms of reference and still share your questions even from today to Monday. But in the terms of reference, define the clear objective of what you expect from valuation specialist. Define the legal framework of the project, including policies of the different MFIs, framework and settlement plan and project entitlement metrics. Define the relationships between valuator and safeguards team. Will valuator go to the field? How safeguards team will share information on assets and safeguards elements of the affected and assets to be valued? What will be their role in consultations? What will be their role in grievance management? Do you need access of these services throughout project implementation, and what this need would be? And consider having 2 additional deliverables in addition to valuation studies and valuation reports. Inception report, which would demonstrate that valuator clearly understands the requirements and what is expected. And second, presentation of the methodology. This could be a very simple but very useful exercise when valuators will share with you the methodology, and you will be able to ask questions to understand how they will result in the valuation, how the evaluation will result in the market value proposed or replacement cost. Over to you, Ines.
Thank you so much, Zara. So this very interesting session addressed the complexities of supervising the valuation process, the challenges in engaging qualified specialists, and ensuring consistent applications of MFI policies and international standards. We also heard about the very critical role of the detailed terms of reference and the use of valuation standards, as well as regular audit or valuation audits to uphold the accountability and accuracy throughout the valuation process. So since we are already over time, I will just pick up one, I think it's a real life case in Armenia where there's a court dispute involving a PIU and an affected person over land where a road was partially constructed. The original valuation was done some time ago before the road existed. So if the new valuation is needed, should it consider the current situation with the road given its significant impact on land prices? So do we take into account the changes that happened to the land since the first valuation? A very quick answer, and then we'll move on to the final session of the day, please.
Probably
Very quick answer.
Probably we will not provide final answer to the question because we will need to look at the process, at the negotiation process, for the reasons why that was that went to the court. But definitely we should consider as a basic principle the replacement cost, and usually it resolves through deposits when complainant and implementing agency goes to the court. Usually compensation is transferred to the deposit accounts that could have additional monthly percentage attached to the compensation amount. This type of solutions could solve the issue. But of course, to give a definitive answer with 200 plus audience, we would need to go and to look at this deeper. And thank you for sharing. We will brainstorm more. Maybe on the third day, we will just share several strategies. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
If I could just add, it's the valuer needs to understand what they're being asked. The valuer can provide you with those numbers, either with the road or without the road, today's date or the previous date. They can provide those, but it's not for the valuer to make that policy. Otherwise, you'll get different interpretations. So the valuer needs to get clear instructions, and then they can provide you with the numbers that relate to the instructions they receive.
Thank you very much, Ben and Zara. So we see that there's no simple cookie cutter response to this question.